When I was very young, I went on trips to Florida to visit my grandparents and got to go to Disneyland. But my real journeys began at age 8, when I took my first step outside the country. My grandfather, who I call Pop-Pop, is a world traveler and photographer. I was always fascinated by his stories and photos of faraway places and animals. Thanks to his inspiration, my family adopted his love of adventure and established a tradition of traveling. Both my parents and grandparents have stressed the importance of being exposed to and learning about different places, cultures, religions, and ways of life. As a result, in the past 7 years, I've been lucky enough to go to 5 different continents, visiting countries such as Tanzania, India, Morocco, Jordan, France, Italy, Norway, and most recently, Vietnam. During my travels, I've experienced many different groups of people around the world. Sometimes my trips are really exciting. For example, when I was in the Serengeti in Africa, the Jeep my family and I were in got stuck in the mud, and we were stuck for 5 hours. It may seem boring, but it was the exact opposite. I got to witness the migration of thousands of zebras and wildebeest up close while we tried to unstuck our Jeep. Our guides radioed for help, and while we waited for help, we sang songs and watched the animals. But probably the part of my trip that impacted me the most was when we went through a Maasai village. A tall, thin man, probably in his 30s, approached our Jeep and went and asked for water. My dad explained to me that the only way that the Maasai have access to water is by walking long distances, and that the water they walk to isn't even that clean. This made me feel sad for them and grateful for some things I take for granted every day. Many times when I'm enjoying a glass of water, I reflect back on that man. This is not the only time that I've seen something on one of my trips that has caused me to be sad. I remember how upsetting it was, being in India, seeing kids younger than I begging for food, water, and money. Again, this made me feel grateful for everything I have and made me more aware. My sisters and I wanted to give the kids some water bottles from our van, but our guide advised us not to because only more kids would come and there wasn't enough for everyone. I hadn't really thought about this experience until writing this speech, but now I'm trying to think of ways to give back either locally or globally. My dad explained to me that there are many different cultures all around the world that have very different lifestyles. In Morocco, for example, when my family and I were on a camel ride through the Sahara Desert, I could see a nomad village in the distance where families lived without electricity or running water. One of our guides explained to us how the nomads loved their lifestyle and wouldn't feel comfortable living in a modern city. It made me wonder what it would be like to live a lifestyle like that because I'm so dependent on electricity. I've gained a lot of respect for their way of life, and I've come to believe that it is important that we respect the fact that people have different lifestyles. We learn about them in school, and I have had the wonderful opportunity to experience them firsthand on my trip. While I feel this has made me a more accepting person, I know I still have a lot to learn. One of my favorite trips was to the Galapagos Islands. Even though the sun really tortured me, since the Galapagos sits right on top of the equator, I didn't let it stop me from enjoying myself. Also, because my mom told me if I didn't wear sunscreen, I couldn't complain. I told her I just wanted to be tan. But joking aside, I learned all about Charles Darwin and his theory of evolution and how the beaks of the birds on each island changed over time to be able to eat the food that was on the island. I also got to go snorkeling with fish, sea lions, penguins, and believe it or not, even sharks. Although I wasn't really thinking about it at the time, when I reflected back on this trip, I came to understand how much science can impact my life and the importance of understanding basic science concepts. However, the trip that had the most impact on me was to Israel. On the early morning of December 26, 2016, I was in Jerusalem to celebrate my bat mitzvah with my parents, sisters, family, and friends at the Davidson Center. The Davidson Center is an archaeological site located next to the Western Wall, the most religious site in the world for Jewish people. The Western Wall is the last remaining part of the temple, which was destroyed 2,000 years ago by the Romans. On that day, the cold breeze drifted through my hair as I read portions of the Torah telling stories of my ancestors. The Torah was being passed down from generation to generation, And when it became my turn, I reached for it, and I realized the immensity of its importance as I almost fell over from its size. After my reading was finished, I was thinking about all the stories my mom told me about her brother and sister and how they loved a good laugh, and my dad's parents who I never got to meet. I could almost picture them and the rest of my ancestors standing with me, celebrating and laughing together. After becoming bat mitzvahed, it was like walking through a door that I couldn't go back through. I felt as if I had left my young, innocent self outside that door and became a maturing young woman, trying to learn more about the world. I truly felt a transformation happen within me. After the service, I realized the responsibilities of becoming a bat mitzvah were heavier than the Torah itself. But I'm optimistic and confident that with the help of my sisters and parents, I will become the responsible adult I wish to be. My trip to Israel was so incredible, getting to see so much history and tradition. Even though we had been there for a week, it only felt like a day. The next thing I knew, I was on the airplane and about to take off for home. Drowned in my thoughts about what the future holds, I looked back from my seat to see my mom and dad and gave them my hand. I closed my eyes and put my headphones on as the plane started its engine, squeezing my parents' hands tighter as the plane began to accelerate. When I was much younger, if someone asked me why I love traveling so much, I would have answered, because it's fun, and I could get cool pictures for my Instagram. That was the old me. As I continued to grow, I realized that traveling has taught me so much more and helped me view the world differently. I have come to appreciate other traditions and ways of life, and it has made me more understanding and accepting, and made me want to continue to strive to be a good citizen. Now, if someone asked me why I love traveling so much, I would answer, because traveling teaches me so much and helps me view the world differently. Thank you.